Assalamu alaikum, guys. Very good evening again. Right now our topic is multimedia novel. Now, speaking about multimedia novel. So, in the classroom, if you remember that we briefly discussed the term multimedia, where actually all of you gave me examples that what do you understand by this term multimedia, and in which different forms we can have our books and our literature written into it. And if you remember, we did made a mind map on the whiteboard as well to actually clear our understanding and our ideas. And actually, we were collecting all the different responses from the entire class. Now, to make the topic very easier and very simpler, let's dive straight into it. So when I speak about a multimedia novel, if we see on the second page at here at 178, so all we can see is that there is a piece of cutting of actually a comic book. So if you remember that we discussed about the DC comics and as well as the Marvel comics. So for reference, for the students who don't know about them, I'm going to show them DC comics, all right, DC comics. So a DC comic is actually a comic company who actually makes comic books, right? So if I will go into the images, so yes, DC heroes, we all know all of them. So these are the people. These are all superheroes from the DC comics. Comic book, maybe DC comic books, all right. So let's see how do they actually look like. So yes, here are some cover pages, and yeah, of course they're all paid. That's why they're not going to show us for free. Uh, Books examples. Let's maybe find examples other than what we are having in our Cambridge book. And I'm like, there could be various different genres over here as well. So, and then we are having not only this, but we are having Marvel comic books as well, based on the Marvel. So you see, we are having different comic books of the superheroes around the world, which we've been seeing in different movies and as well as like that. Now, speaking of that, keeping that in consideration, this is also one of the cutting of a comic from somewhere, which is actually illustrated here in our learner's book. Okay, so now I hope you have understood the concept of a multimedia novel. Actually, here we are actually talking about a comic book. Now, this in this comic book, what is there happening that there are a couple of pictures, bunch of pictures, and there are actually white bubbles made at the top of the characters. And in these bubbles, what is written? Their dialogues are written. What is written? Their dialogues are written. Or for example, we did a role play in the class as well regarding to this. Now, for example, there's a woman. The name is definitely not mentioned here. So she's asking from, okay, this guy seems to be her husband or brother. So she's asking that, what's this, Donald? And he replies, happy birthday to you. And then said, oh, I think this is the first one. Happy birthday to you. And she says, what's this, Donald? And then he quickly says, this is your birthday present. It's a Ulysses Super Suction Multi-Terrain 2000X. Happy birthday. All right. And then the story goes on and on. They're having conversation. They're actually illustrating this through pictures and through comments, through bubbles. All right. So, but this is not the only story, okay? What do we have to do here is that, so if you can see, there's actually a complete series of these pictures, and if we can see that multiple different events are actually happening with them, and the dialogues are changing as well as everything's happening over here. Now, what we have to do from this topic by understanding this topic is that we have to actually convert this comic layout, this this of these different pictures or this comic dialogue layout pattern into third person narrative writing. Now, if you remember, when we speak about the third person, what are the pronouns that we use? Like they, them, third person, other people, when we are talking about someone else, all right? When we are, let's say, not directly, let's say, connected with them or affiliating them, we are affiliating them through a third party, using third party English vocabulary, third party, let's say, pronouns, right? So we have to write a story based on that. That me as an author, what can I see? What I'm supposed to, let's say, understand by that. But that writing, that essay or that paragraph should include the exact dialogues which are said by them. For example, if if I get a question, okay, and if I let's say get a task in my exams or in my test that uh, convert the following. Maybe let's say let's try to think of a question. Maybe it could say us that convert the following comic book or comic picture into a third person narrative writing. So what will I do? Maybe let me give an example, and we actually did this in the classroom as well. I'm again explaining you. So what actually I will do is that I will come up with a story. I will actually write the whole story. For example, that there was a time when two husband and wife, maybe Bill and Anna, they were living together. So Bill was always really much excited about Anna's birthday, and due to that, he was saving a lot of money. And the day came, Bill actually bought a super suction multi-turn 2000 XP XH, a vacuum cleaner, which seemed to be a vacuum cleaner for his wife. So as soon as the bill entered the house, as soon as the bill entered the house, now another line over there, and there, Bill. Then I can actually quote the dialogues directly, like "Happy birthday, space, comma, said Bill." Now, if you remember, if you recall, in the dialogue writing in the first term, we actually studied about inner dialogues and outer dialogues, in which we studied that how these dialogues are supposed to be said. What is the concept of inner dialogue? What is the concept of an outer dialogue as well? So that is the same technique actually we have to use here. See, I always told you that please, please, please study to build up your skills. Now, see, now this is a topic that we studied in the first term, and now it's coming handy. It's coming useful now in second term. I'm like, who knew about this, that this is going to happen? So, surprise. So, this is how actually I'm going to convert that. And for an example, I have a very relevant example to show you guys. For example, the Jungle Book. So let me just open the document over here in my computer. Okay, here you go, the Jungle Book. So now, speaking of the Jungle Book, if you can see here on the very first page, let me actually show you that how it is actually written, okay? Now, for example, check this out. Uh, okay, let me read it from, okay, here. Mother Wolf lay, Mother Wolf, okay, let me just zoom a little bit into it. I think it's a little bit far away. Okay, maybe Liz brother. So, okay. Mother Wolf lay with her big grey nose dropped across her four tumbling, squealing cubs, and the moon shone on the mouth of the cave, where they all lived. Urgh, said Father Wolf. Now, if you can understand, if you can try to read it from here till here, so the author is actually describing the situation, just like I was describing the situation of Bill and Anna in the vacuum cleaner situation. This is exactly how we need to do. In the third person, we have to describe the scenario, describe the story, right? And here is the form of the dialogues. Erg, said Father Wolf. Now integrating, also putting the main dialogues as well over there. Okay? Now, for example, in this case, Erg, it's in inverted commas, said Father Wolf. It's time to hunt again. He was going to spring downhill when a little shadow with a bushy tail crossed the threshold and whined. Now, it is time to hunt again. Now, again in inverted commas. Now, author, because author wants us to imagine that you need to imagine as well that how the characters are saying those dialogues in the real time. I mean, like whenever this was happening. Of course, it was never happening because it's all fiction. And then, okay, he was going to spring downhill when a little shadow with a bushy tail crossed the threshold and whined. Good luck with you, O chief of the wolves, and good luck and strong white teeth go with the noble children, that they may never forget the hungry in this world. Again, closed with the inverted commas. Now, who said this dialogue? Let's try to read it. It was the jackal Tabaqui, the dishlicker, and the wolves of the India despise Tabaqui because he runs about making mischiefs. Now, see, again, the author is trying to describe Tabaqui by using some adjectives, by telling that what was the nature of this creature, this particular character used in the novel, and after quoting the dialogues to actually bring some reality, and then again there is a complete. Oops, sorry, never mind. So again, there is a complete list of details which they are actually giving over here, and then again, the author is integrating a dialogue. Okay, let me read it for you until here. because he runs about mischieving and telling tales, eating rags and pieces of leather from the village, rubbish heaps. But they're afraid of him too because Tabaqui, more than anyone else in the jungle, is apt to go mad, and then he forgets that he was ever afraid of anyone and runs through the forest, biting everyone in his way. Even the tiger runs and hides when the little Tabaqui goes mad. For madness is the most disgraceful thing that can overtake a wild creature. Now, see, again describing the characteristics, okay, telling the background story, telling the background touch over here. We call it hydrophobia, but they call it divani, all right, the madness. And run. Enter, then. The look, said father, wolf stiffly, but there is no food here. For a wolf, no. For a wolf, no, said Tabaqui, but for so mean a person as myself, a dry bone is a food feast. Who are we? The Gitterlog, the Jackal people, to pick and choose. I'm like, here the Tabaqui is kind of, let's say, uh, making oneself feel a little bit down of himself at this moment. So by integrating the author's narrative, which is a third person narrative from comic to the third person narrative, and so this is how this thing has to be done. Now, what if in the exam the teacher is asking all of you that from this third person narrative, how can you convert that into a comic book or a dialogue writing? Can we do that? What do you think? Absolutely, yes, we can do that. But for that, we definitely have to make pictures. We have to actually, design a comic book that, we can extract the direct inverted comma dialogues from this text and actually use them. So guys, thank you so much for coming in this video as well, watching this video as well. So now what I'm going to do is that let's try to see a couple of exercises here which can be handy for us to understand. So you can see a lot of adjectives are given over here, or a lot of, let's say, vocabulary words are given over here to actually understand. So see, write a cartoon sequence in a narrative form with dialogue. Okay, this is actually what we have to do. Use the exact words for the dialogue. Make sure you punctuate them correctly. Okay, here they're emphasizing on the punctuation as well. Write the narrative in the third person, past tense. Explain what is going on in the Tickham household. Choose precise descriptive words in the place of the word set to show the speaker action and feelings. Here are some you can use and add ones you use to use in your learning journal. So these are all the vocabulary words of verbs that you can use over there as well. And about the connectives, we're definitely going to talk that in our next lecture. So let's see. Okay, this is 7.1 multimedia novel, and in our workbook we are having exercise related to that. Yep, we do have it. So in a workbook, using the precise verbs, choose a powerful verb to replace underlined words. You have to replace the words by using verbs. Okay, make a word web of 10 more vivid verbs to replace went, the word went. Okay, or choose more interesting words to replace each of the underlined words. Okay, more appropriate, let's say, more interesting one, not the boring one or not the common one. Okay, but your production, again, I'm going to say over here that it needs to be done by converting a comic book style into third person narrative. As an author, think that what your reader wants to read, how to actually describe a reader that what is actually happening in the novel. Be creative, use your imagination, brainstorm. We studied about the brainstorming techniques in the first term as well, that take a moment, jot down your points, do a little bit rough work, plan out what you need to write down, and then give it a go. So under this video as well, guys, I'm going to be giving my work email address. Speaking of which, you can definitely email me your work if you want to get it checked by me, whether you have done the right thing or not. So yeah, I'm always here for you. So yeah, guys, again, the same thing. If you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and do follow the series of the videos as well. And yeah, pretty much it. Then until next video.